Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of episode 6 of Cause and Effect, a show about VTES. If you have missed the first part, I suggest that you go back and watch it before watching this part, because we are going to reference back to that part. We also have a special feature in this episode on account that we are awesome, that we have a part 1.5, a little neighboring thingy. So you should watch that too as well before watching this part. Anyhow, we are really glad that you're watching this part as well, so you should watch this now. We are going to start talking about another deck. Anyway, today we're talking about Salubri, and now we're going to take a look at Mr. Salubri and what a fun thing you can do with him. Isaac, what is it that we are going to talk about?
This is the Solus and the Nurgle dating deck. Built by me and Erik is on one with it, of course, because he can play decks. I can't. This is based on a concept that Michael Linus showed me one of the times we were in Finland. It's very hard to describe this deck, but I'm going to do my very best. Essentially, it's a toolbox. It's a toolbox. The entire idea of the deck is based around the revelation Marco did, that Solot and Nurgle are actually very similar and have a lot of cards in common, or stealth disciplines in common, because of various inferiors that exists. And then you lead with Salubri and Nurgle, you bounce the people leading you, and you go for the win. Okay. Is this making sense to you guys? Yeah. It all bases around the Salubri and Nurgle share common disciplines. You can stealth with Symmetry that both have, both with Auspex and Fortitude, so you get multiple actions, and you get to use Auspex for defense. And then you have Repulsion and Neutral Guard, that's stealth for Nurgle. You have I Am Legion, that is stealth for Solot, Inferior Daemonian, and Nurgle can use all 3 levels, stealth for Auspex Denial. And then you have Psychomachia, block denial, against jungle vampires. And since you're playing a 10 cap and an 11 cap, it's more or less a block denial all the time. And then you use these cards. Almost worked. The newest addition is Gift of Sleep. That's stealth on Norvia, and Solemn Obfuscate, one additional stuff.
Slow down. Okay. So, all of these cards, both of them can use all of them.
Except for Repulsion, the permanent stealth, and Neutral Guard. That cannot be used by Nurgle. Yeah. But essentially, there's 4 stealth cards and a blocker denial for them both to use.
What is it? 4 stealth cards and how many block denials? 1.
1 denial. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't count the Neutral Guard, but that they both have in common.
Okay, cool. Before we go further into the depths of this deck list, we still listen to a few things. Adam, would you like to tell us a little bit about the companions? We already have talked about them, maybe people should know them by now, or else you can watch the first part, as I mentioned earlier. But Nicodemus is a new player in our little webcast.
Right. I think he is basically not played at all for his disciplines. It's his special that makes him include in this deck. Once each of your turns, Nicomedes can burn a blood to shuffle your hand into your library, which is because of the deck is kind of weird in how it's made. It doesn't have lots of actions and relies a lot on the action modifiers and reaction cards. It's just I'm not sure how to say it, like in a more scientific way, but the deck is really weird. So sometimes you're gonna end up with hands, or a lot of times you're gonna end up with hands that you want to change, and Nicomedes can do this for you, obviously, because that's just special.
Yeah.
So it just makes the deck run a lot smoother, and when you get to Villain and renew Trigger a few times, you can afford him quite easily, and it's nice to have another minion which can remove Pentex or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a nice include in the deck. It's not like a big thing, it doesn't define the deck in any way, but it's like really nice when you get him out and you can use it special.
Yeah, and I mean, it can't be under stress that it's not an action.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You just do it whenever you dislike your hand. You can actually do it like, okay, now I can cycle this card and possibly get a stealth card. No, I didn't. I just burn a blood, discard my hand, what? Discard? Yeah? No, shuffle the hand. Shuffle the hand and draw a new one. And then you might have the stealth card. So that's nice as well. It's more like adaptive. But I think stuff that we shouldn't like skip with the vampires, Solus and Nurgle, is that they have plus bleed.
I was going to that.
Yeah, so
go on.
Not much else to say there. I don't think the deck would work at all without the plus bleeds. Like if you want, eventually you get Enkel Cog, so that's permanent 6 bleed on your vampires, and when you have your setup done, you want to bleed every turn. So that's when it starts being like annoying or like aggressive, ousting your prey.
Yeah, but because or rather, when you have your Enkel Cog, it's a bleed for 9 each turn. Because you have the one meter underground, or rather this iteration doesn't have that, but you have your 9 freak drives. So you use the freak drives to get 2 bleed actions per, or one in your turn and one in your prey's turn with Solot, and you have the 3 bleed from Nurgle. Or if you have removed Nurgle and brought the Great Beast, but he also bleeds for 3. So. Yeah. Either case, you bleed for 9 each turn, and having a constant pressure of 9, no one can handle that in the end.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually, if you think it's beneficial, you can choose to put the Enkel Cog on Nurgle, which makes you bleed for 10 each turn.
Yes, but you're running the risk of getting Archoned.
Of course. That's only...
Or, and your prey get a bigger advantage out of his or her bounces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay,
we should point out that you should always bring Solot out first because he's special. Yeah. That makes him move 2 blood from him to a vampire.
Yeah. I believe our viewers should know this, but it's good that we pointed out. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at the deck list. Is there some cards here that you like kind of never see? Otherwise, I don't see a lot.
I think Unburdening the Beast's Soul is...
Yeah,
I think what we should mention in the first place, you usually don't see like that many Psychomachia and stuff like that, but Unburdening the Beast's Soul, since this is a Salubri episode, we should talk about that card. Essentially, it's like a Pentex that... here's the card. You can, when you have it, you put this on one of your vampires, your prey's vampires. Hopefully, he do play high cap, so that removes half of his or her actions and blocking attempt and ability to play reaction cards. And since it can only be removed if you elect to remove it by not paying the 2 blood. You get Pentex, very very broken Pentex.
Pentex which can't be removed, or you can't play reaction cards.
Yeah. So it.
Yes.
It's unfair.
It's unfair, yeah. Especially with neutral guard, since then you more or less can't block it when you take action.
There's not that many block decks that evolves around 11 cap.
But how do you play this card? Do you usually do you pay for it all the time, or do you use it like when you're about to oust, like a Pentex or?
It depends a lot. One of the best part with the card is that it doesn't really matter when you draw it, more or less, because it's almost always strong. As long as you don't face weakness, it's very good. So if you roll it early on, you can either use it for your prey or predator's blocking vampire if they play a blocking deck, or you can use it like on your predator if he plays a deck based around going down the line downwards in the start. You're really critical that predator. Or you can, if you use it, get it mid game, you can play it on if your prey only is unlucky, and this happened to me once. It only draws one guy with superior Auspex, for instance, and Auspex is the bounce defense. You play Unburdening the Vicious Soul on that vampire, and then you do the bleed for 9 thing, and your prey can't bounce. And a bleed for 9 is maybe you pay 2 blood to get another turn, and then you have 9 more, and that's 18, and then that player's out. Ousted.
Okay.
The only problem is it costs 2 blood each turn, so that's a lot of blood. But if you play defensively, maybe even hunting is worth it if this card is in play. And also, like, you can use Call the Great Beast for Obeya, and then he can Renewed Vigor Solot.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, you might need to play defensively with the blood, but I think this deck could be able to keep Unburdening in play for a long time.
Yeah. So is it the blood cost that makes it you don't see it even in other Spirit Marionette decks, or is it the rarity, or why?
Maybe it's the rarity, and maybe that Salubri isn't. I think most people reasons that Salubri is cheesy, or the reasoning could be that it's unstable, it's not strong enough to play. But you can't play Unburdening the Vicious Soul with a deck based on Barn Shield or Eraila, in my opinion. You need to play with Nahum Enosh, the 10 cap in Group 6, or you need to play with Solot, because it's only against younger vampires. So that could be one of the reasons, because Solot has only, air quoting here, been around for 5 years or something like that, 6 years. And the older Salubris, the Group 2 ones, have been around since 2002 or something like that. So it could just be that the community haven't had enough time to experiment with Salubri. But could be.
Pentex is like increasing in popularity even still. I'm a proponent for having Pentex in almost every deck, but as well as a proponent for Unburdening Beast of the Soul. Maybe if more people come to the conclusion that Pentex is a good card to include in every deck, they'll come to the conclusion that Unburdening the Beast of the Soul is good to include in every Solot or Nahum Enosh deck as well. Like, they're kind of the same cards, so if you like Pentex, you're probably gonna like Unburdening the Beast of the Soul.
Yeah. And it also fits well into the logic of a Neutral Guard, because Neutral Guard is actually only strong when you play the 10 or 11 caps. And the same thing with Unburdening Beast of the Soul.
Take up Neutral Guard, maybe?
Yeah, I put up. I don't think Unburdening could be played without a Neutral Guard. Because Neutral Guard, you want to put that on like a deck that is defensive. Oh no, sorry, Unburdening. It's best, in my opinion, on a deck that's defensive. And if the deck is defensive, then you will have a hard time getting the Unburdening off, because it's 0 self, or 1. Sorry. It doesn't matter. So Neutral Guard and Unburdening the Beast of the Soul, I actually think they go quite a lot hand in hand. Both younger and they do the same thing, or like one is a transient, the other one is a permanent. But combined, you can just put Unburdening on any vampire.
Yeah, and you can afford with keeping the Unburdening the Beast of the Soul up with either Spirit Marionette Hideaway or with Renewed Vigor. So it makes a lot of sense to include it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are there more like obvious question marks?
Are you talking about the deck now, or?
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned that Magic of the Smith combined with Heart of Nichitas is key in this deck to success. It's more or less unplayable without the cycling of cards, because when you need the bounces, you really do need them to survive, because you want to it's not waste, you want to spend 21 blood on Solid and Nurgle, and you actually do want the third minion also, and that's either 5 pool or 9 pool additional. So that's almost between 25 and 30 pool. So actually you do need the defense, you do need the villains when you have the villains. And
but you only play 4 villains?
That's because Magic of the Smith, I guess. But you might want to increase it. On the other hand, if you increase the amount of villains, you get this is a 1 Master Phase action deck, and having 22 Masters right now on 78 cards, and if you put 2 or 3 more into deck, that's 25 or 24 Masters in an 80 card deck, and only 1 Master Phase action. That's a lot of Masters.
Yeah, but you can put them. I think the Heart Initiative is like what everything revolves around. You could probably play 24 Masters with Heart Initiatives and Nicomedes in the deck, because the Heart is strong enough for that.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually a really good point. The Heart Initiatives, I don't think this deck would work very well without it. At least for a few turns. You might end up contesting it later during the game, or you might get it late or whatever, but you need to use it a few times during the game.
Sorry, I zoned out a little bit. You did mention Hearts on Initiatives and Nicomedes. That is really strong.
Yeah. It works exactly, because if you put stuff on the bottom, it might be stuff that you need for later on. And by doing Nicomedes special, you get for one to change hand, and the other part is to shuffle those cards in the bottom and evenly distribute them again.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if there's any more obvious question marks when you look at this deck list.
The entire deck list?
Yeah, the entire deck list is weird. Yeah.
You could do but it's all of the stuff working together. It's also kind of unplayable without Crypt Acceleration.
Yeah.
You only need to draw one of the Crypt Acceleration cards that makes you get Solid 1 turn earlier. And if you get Solid earlier, you get to use a special earlier. So then you get your Nurgle earlier, etc., etc., etc. And because you have the Freak Drives, you can make sure that each vampire, or at least Nurgle and Solid, every turn bleeds once. And if you get some the Ankle Cog out, you get to bleed twice with Solid, obviously.
You have 9 Freak Drives in this deck, so there's a lot of actions that need to be done, right?
The only action that actually needs to be done, I think, is Magic of the Smith on Heart of Nichitas.
Bleed.
Everything else is very neat, though.
Okay.
And you could play this deck with Spirit Marionette and Heidelberg Castle, Germany as well, I think. You might not. You might want to play with Anesthetic Touch, as the situation have, or you could play without them. You have a lot of various choices when it comes to that.
What do you feel about adding Soldier of Adventurous in this deck?
I think that you mean for when the Nurgle burns.
Right, when you get called the Great Beast. You might get a lot cheaper Nicomedes or Aorida.
You could try that. It is a lottery.
But it's only 1 card slot as well, maybe?
Yeah, of course, and you could reason that with a lot of cards. One thing that I know that Marco had in his original deck that I was inspired by was that he played with Sargon Fragment to get Superior Necromancy through Magic of Smith, and then he played the Possession with Solot or Procession with the Great Beast to bring the burned Nurgle back in to play, and you play Renew Vigor on him, and you get the Great Beast for free essentially. That is something you could try out as well.
Cool trick. So let's just take us through it. How do you play it? What happens?
You bring out Solid first with Crypt Acceleration. You discard cards every single turn. You play Magical Smith as your first action on Heart of Nichitas. Obviously, you need the Magical Smith and Heart of Nichitas on your hand, but that's your first priority. After that, you go for Villaining, Renewed Vigor, and Bleeding. And Bleeding every single turn. No exceptions. No exceptions.
Well,
that's why.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, there's exceptions.
Yeah, but this is. Wouldn't you prioritize defense first so that you can get 3 minions up as fast as possible and then start bleeding? Like if you need to stay untapped to not take a bleed.
It's very, very unlikely that you don't have a bounce and a wake on your hand. Very unlikely because you play 9 of each.
Right, yeah, but still, do you prioritize bleeding before defense all the time?
If you don't have a wake and a bounce on your hand and you have a dominate predator, no, of course that's like the exception. But
misdirection.
You could get misdirection on your ass or something like that. But the main problem being it's very, 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 very rarely that you don't have wake and a bounce at the start of the game. But the thing is, bleeding for 9 each turn, or to begin with you bleed for 5 and then later on you get to bleed to 9. It sounds like a lot, but it's not enough. This deck really works at its best in a bleed-heavy environment because you play so much bounce. And you can play so much bounce with that many wakes because you have Nicomedes and or Heart of Nichitas.
And 2 dreams.
And 2 dreams. So you get those cards on your hand, and you use the wake and the bounce to get that additional pressure on your prey. Mm-hmm. But if you play in a meta that's not that bleed heavy, it's probably a wiser choice to go for maybe a wider variety in the crypt to get an additional minion into play, and or you could go for some Spirit Marionette to better control the table and get some more stuff. You could even go for some bleed equipments and pass them between Nurgle and Solot to get even more bleed, like Tasha Morgan, Jay Simmons, and Laptop, and move them between the 2 bleeders.
Yes, I don't see neither Spirit Marionette or Heidelberg.
Not in this iteration, but you could.
Right.
If you expect not as bleed heavy meta, then you could go for that.
But more in depth, what are the strengths and weaknesses? What do you sacrifice in order to get, or what do you get instead of the Spirit Marionette, or what would you take out?
If you want to put Spirit Marionette in this deck,
right?
What would I take out? First, I'd remove the anesthetic touches. Probably remove them either way. And probably, or maybe uncoiling or something like that. And some wakes and some bounces. I play Spirit Marionette instead and try to better capitalize on Villain.
Okay. Of course, it's a really, really big advantage playing the Villain and what's it called?
Renewed Vigor.
Yeah, Renewed Vigor. Is that a key element, or is it just there because it's neat?
I think you want to do it at least once to be able to get through the day. My guess is that at least. So when Nurgle pops up, you want to villain him kind of hard, say 8 or 9, or maybe 10 is probably too ballsy, but 8 or 9, and then you do a Renewed Vigor with Solot, and then you're probably around 15, 16 pool, maybe something like that. And that could be either enough to survive or enough to get a 3rd minion out.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems a little bit more. You could put your head around.
More of a goofy deck than Errol Major's deck.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know what else to ask about it. I mean, it's just high cap vampires bleeding and doing neat things.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. You could go for some combat angle as well. You could go for even more block angle. There's a lot of things to do with Solid and Nurgle. Because you have the permanent bleed, you don't have to include as much ousting power.
Yeah.
And that's the real strength of plus speed, that you can focus more on other stuff. Say, toolboxy things. Mm-hmm. And if you want to do something toolboxy, at least in my reasoning, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but you need heart or some other way, reliable way to cycle your cards.
Oh. Yeah, and Monster Shadows is really neat in this deck as well, of course.
Yeah, then you get. Yeah, and if you Meter Underground is probably a good choice too. But it all comes down to you have a lot of options. You could probably build like 180 card deck with these two vampires.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam, what are your thoughts now? If you can grab your head around the deck a little bit more now, what do you think?
I think it seems like more like psychological, if that makes any sense. You capitalize, you want to play this deck because, or in a way, you play this deck the way you play it because of how other people play their decks. You just the bounce is like a prime example. This is in every single deck that's made. You need bounce, and depending on how much bounce you have, you want your predator to bleed you as much. But it feels like this is the case with this deck for everything, like the stealth. You have a lot of stealth, but you'll discard it if you don't need it. And the monster cards are quite diverse, so a lot of them you'll just put away with Nicomedes or Heart Initiatives when you don't need them, and same with the actions. So it feels like you're just adapting to whatever other people are doing, in a way.
Yeah.
Just Villain and Renewed Vigor to be able to afford anything.
Yeah. Just capitalize on big vampires bleeding.
Yeah. It seems like almost the least focused deck that's competitive in the entire game, possibly.
Yeah, it's very unfocused.
Yeah.
One thing that should be pointed out as well, that sooner or later you probably have to get the Great Beast. And when you get the Great Beast, one part of that is that the rush gets really strong in the end game because most people have lost a lot of blood, and you can easily knock someone to torpor with the 4 strength of the Great Beast. Another part being that Nurgle is probably out of blood, and a third thing being that Solid is out of blood. And when Solid is out of blood, you either have to be very lucky, i.e. Get the Giant's Blood, or you have to do Great Beast and get the Great Beast, and one of the 3 disciplines has to be Obia, and you play Renewed Vigor on Solid.
Okay. So I mean, the key action if you want to fuck with someone that's playing this deck is not to point out that he's playing a weird deck, but to block a Renewed Vigor, of course.
It can be very devastating. Yeah, very, very devastating, actually. Destroying the Heart of Initiatives is very strong as well, but if you have a decent card flow, as Adam said, you probably only need it to use it twice, maybe 3 times. After that, it's great. It's obviously it's a Heart of Initiatives. It's very, very good, but it's not mandatory after that, I think.
Okay. Yeah, there are more equipment. There are 3 Magical Smith, and there's only 2 equipments. You mentioned you could put in more bleed equipment.
Yeah, that's an option to do. If I build this deck today, you probably have 2 Heart Initiatives and maybe 4 Magical Smiths. Mm-hmm. Might be a bit of an exaggeration, but I feel that having a backup heart and having 6 different actions can bring you the heart is great.
Okay. How about that Villain Lilith's Blessing. Would that be something with this deck, or is it?
No. I think that's probably, or maybe you could play with, maybe you could play with one Lilith's Blessing. Probably not worth it, but maybe. But doing like Villain for everything and then play Lilith's Blessing, that only leaves you 3 blood, and you get nowhere with 3 blood.
There's too many monsters in this deck. Lilith's Blessing, I think, requires either 2 monster-based actions or to remove almost all non-tribal monsters.
Yeah.
So no, I would not play that. It wouldn't see use, or if it would see use, you would clog on monster. Even more than you already do, of course, because there's 22 monsters in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, guys, have anything to add with this deck?
Really fun deck. Anyone who has these cards, or if your playgroup allows proxy cards, I would implore you to create this deck and play it. It's really fun. It's not imbalanced or overpowered. It doesn't win every single table.
No.
Absolutely not. But it's really fun to play.
I think I played it like one time, but it didn't get pen-text and then died. So.
Yes.
Fun.
That's an obvious drawback with playing with 1 11 cap and 1 10 cap.
Which relies on reaction cards to stay alive.
Yeah, of course. This deck doesn't include pen-text.
Yeah, but it's 2 washers, so you're safe.
And there's a perfectionist as well. Is it like a big problem with blood?
Could be. It's not a big problem with blood on Nurgle. That solves itself because you just play Renew Bigger on Nurgle. It could be a problem with blood on Solent. Because you want to use a special, and it costs 2 blood, and then you want to freeze drive and maybe play some self card. So.
I would argue that Heidelberg is stronger than Perfectionist, because even without Trade Bayonet, Heidelberg plus Renewed Vigor is really strong, because then he can effectively renew Vigor himself.
Yeah.
You could also argue that you could bring another or 2 more Unburdening the Legion of Souls to this deck, because no, sorry, I take it back. Yes, you should play Heidelberg, probably, because the Renewed Vigor trick.
Yeah, that's neat.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're done with that deck.
Yes.
Try it at home, kids.
Try it at home, kids.
And you.
Sorry about that.
So I think we're about to talk a little bit about statistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so I think most of you guys at home know that there's been like a big discussion about timing and if this has been more. A lot of people feel like it's been more. Anyway, you think you could probably take us in better on this subject.
Yeah, I think we should say there's been a big discussion about timeouts, and there were like an idea or the concept of Villain plus Lilith's Blessing, mostly I think were the discussion, but maybe some Giant's Blood too, made the game slower and actually led to more timeouts. And Extrala, that is Ralph Lammert, put the stuff from the Archons from 2009, 2010 and 2011 EC and piled together, and it shows that there's actually been more or less no difference in timeouts over time, or at least over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what does this conclude then, Adam?
I think this, I think statistically there is no change, but I think this just goes to show that how much psychology means in this game. How you build a deck and how you play a deck, you're faced with a lot of choices. Most of the time you're choosing, if you simplify it, between being aggressive or being defensive.
Yeah.
Some decks, of course, have bigger options for either of these two. But if, say, you're playing a defensive deck, like an Auspicious Weenie or something, you can choose to tap out and bleed every single turn. And rely on your action cards. And on the other hand, if you're playing like a Vignes deck, you can choose to stay untap every single turn because you have so much bleed on your hand, you can oust whenever you like. And this just goes to show that I think no matter which deck you play, no matter which deck you play, people will be more affected by like their psychology than which cards they have on their hand. Some people will go for a 20% chance to oust. Some people will go for a 30% chance to oust. And this is no matter what deck they're playing. And the same logic as well. You go for a 20% chance to survive and a 30% chance to survive on whatever your option is. Even if you're like... if you're playing villain and you're villain for everything and then you use Lilith's Blessing, that's clearly a defensive choice. Another choice could be to play villain and then use Pentex. Villain for less, Pentex, and then try to oust. And this goes into people's, both if they actually have the Pentex on hand and Lilith in play, they can choose between these two, but they can also choose this in the deck building stage. Like if you have 8 villains and 3 Golcondas, you might have a more defensive mindset and be choosing to be more defensive at that point. But I don't think the actual card releases have changed as much. They're just going to be using other cards defensively. That's my take on this.
Because this all comes from like the light blue parts of these diagrams. It's called that
pie chart.
What?
Pie chart.
Pie chart. Pie as in the food. Okay, never mind. It's the blue part. You have light blue parts, anyways. Is the tables that ended with no game win, and that's a problematic timeout. Like a 2.5 and 3.5 timeout in my book, at least, is not a problem because there actually have been someone who won the table. It's like the 0.5 and 1.5 timeout. Yeah. That's bad. And those are 27%, 29%, and 30%. And that is more or less 30. It's been around 30% the last 3 years, so it's not been a difference because of a card. It's like I think Adam said that, or more or less said that if you are defensive in your mindset when it comes to playing VTES, you will be defensive with whatever card you get on your hand. You can be defensive with Villain and Lilith's Blessing, or you can be defensive with Auspex, or you can be defensive with Rushes, or you can be defensive with Raven Spies, or you can be defensive with No Secrets of Magai. Or if you're aggressive in your mindset when it comes to either deck building or playing, you can use the Villain to get more pool and use that pool to get more vampires, to have more vampires to bleed with. Okay. Or you follow? That's the essential idea. But I think the interesting part is this part, that actually haven't changed anything over the last 3 years.
But is the criticism just about, like, I haven't followed the discussion, but is the criticism just about, like, this year and, like, an overall how the game has changed latest year or something like that? Or is it, like maybe a reaction to something that's been going on for more, like, 3 years?
It very well could be, and I do know that not everybody brings this part up as against. It's a lot of cards that have been talked about as problematic, air quoting now again. But if we focus on Villain, one of the arguments is that it ends up with timeouts, and there are other arguments as well, like in combination with Giant's Blood, it's too strong or something like that. But I think this is like the part that I want to talk about, at least compared to the statistics. It's because the statistics can't say anything else than something about timeouts.
Oh. Because they are talking about, like, having a poll or something about actually banning delay.
Yeah, or at least what the community thinks about that idea.
Yeah.
But I think this goes to show that it's very important to have facts when we start, because most of these are based on how one player perceives the game, or maybe how their play group is working.
But
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
There's something else you can analyze in this that pertains to timeout in a bit. If you don't see it because of the resolution, the green pie is 3 game wins. The red one is 4 points, sorry. Game win 4 points, 3 points. The purple one is 2 points game win, and the dark blue one is a sweep, like 5 point game win.
So 2.5 point game win. I mean,
no,
2 point game.
I think 2 and
2 or 2.5, 3
Okay.
and 3.5, 4 and 4.5.
So what you see here is that the most common occurrence is to get 3 game wins, to win, 3 victory points. You win a game with 3 victory points. The second most common is to win with 4 victory points. It's, for me at least, it's the most rational choice to go for, to try and win with 3 victory points. Because it's the easiest. Exactly. Timeouts, I think, occur more often when people want to go for a sweep. If you want to save people cross table,
with air shift or Gokonda.
Timeouts happen more often, and going for a sweep is, as you see, it's incredibly rare. It doesn't help much. So maybe if more people try to go for the 3 point, there would, if more people try to go for the green chart, there will be less games ending up in the light blue chart. If more people went for 3 game wins, there will be less timeouts.
I think we have discussed this a little bit before when we talked about my enemy's enemy and other cards. That you always want someone else on the table to die. You shouldn't be afraid of losing someone, and the table is almost always in your favor.
As long as it's not yourself dying.
Yeah, 6 pool isn't that big of a deal usually.
Yeah, and when we interviewed Hugh Angsising during the EC, he also touched upon this subject, that he's not afraid to let people die.
Yeah.
That's not him.
And that might be, you can attribute a lot of his success to this, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
This unsympathetic game style. Anyway.
Yeah, it seems kind of rude, almost, not to help your cross-table buddy.
Or, yeah.
In some way.
But it's helping you.
For me, I think it is more like greed. The greed of that Adam was talking about. No, I want my 4 VPs, or I want my sweep.
Yeah.
But that's,
It's probably... at least I think this is very interesting, that there actually is some hard facts to mine from certain parts. There is data to gather still in the community, to use existing archives like old Archons, using the La Sombras tournament winning deck archive and such things, to actually get some hard facts and use those to analyze the game.
I would like to make a call for more statistics. I mean, if you have written your nationals, you know what happened last years in your nationals, do pie charts as well and bring them up. I mean, the more we know, the more.
Yeah.
How does that saying go?
And even console games as well.
Yeah.
You know when you talk about them. Yeah.
Yeah. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Yeah. Well, more seriously, use it for casual games as well. It's really helpful for yourself, your play group. You will be able to analyze your own play better, and it can also help out the community if you want to post it on the Beacon forums.
Yeah. Of course.
Or email it to us. Maybe we could do something. Maybe
make a T-shirt.
Yeah.
With your own statistics and send it back. Nobody knows. Okay. So I haven't timed this part. Adam, do you know how long we've been at it?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay. Isak, do you know?
Sorry. No. I'm usually trusting your instincts.
45 minutes. I'm gonna go with 45 minutes at this time.
At this time, this part.
we just do the rest of it and see where it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Because I thought if you guys are done talking about the lane, or should we touch upon the subject again?
Compared to those statistics, I think I'm kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's very interesting to see. 30% of all games in a big tournament will go to timeout, or at least will go without a game win, and another 30% will go with a game win and 3 VPs. I think that's very interesting. There's no good knowledge to have when you go to a big tournament event.
Yeah, it's really cool. Adam?
Yes.
Nothing?
No, I think it's interesting. I'd like to implore other people to analyze this as well, because data is one thing, analyzing is another thing. Our analysis could be wrong. So talking about this data makes us better at analyzing it. We might get a better conclusion in the end.
That's really like what's it called? Ödmjukt for you.
Humble.
Yeah, that's really humble of you. That's a new side.
Sorry, I'll try to. Sorry.
Yeah. Anywho, we should announce the winner of this week's challenge.
Yes. You want drum rolls?
Yes, I want a corny drum roll, please. Hold on, can I get a...
Oh, sorry, that was a
Okay, that's right.
Okay.
Randyman, you won again, you old winner, you.
Yes, it's Ranaldudstam wins again.
Yeah, yet again with an excellent deck list. Let's have a look. Adam, could you bring us in? What is it?
Right. Shalmat Chameleon deck.
We should mention that of course the challenge was to build a Shalmat deck, and it was our good friend Utso who came up with the idea. Anyway.
Okay. Right. It's a Shalmat Chameleon deck. Some people might have seen the Naktrub Chameleon deck, and this is like a variation on that deck, but it has some nice advantages that'll just help it out. The idea is that you bring out Shalmat as fast as you can with Crypt Acceleration. You go Baron with a Feast Stake, and then you use Chameleon on whichever vampire your player predator has brought out. And ta-da! You're like in a really good spot. And I think
then we bring up Chameleon so you can see it all.
Right. Yeah. And I think the biggest
and Shalmat
advantage of a deck like this is compared to another Chameleon deck is Shalmat with Enkelkog is so good. And Enkelkog with Minion Steal is quite good as well, because then you can use the vampires faster, use them twice a lot faster. Did I get that right? No, sorry. I disregarded that.
But I don't know if it is the best choice, if you could have a best choice with Chameleon, because it's a big hassle to actually get the setup. First, you need to be big, a big cap vampire, and then you need to get to be an Anarch, and then you need to get to be a Baron, and then you need to have an actual vampire that just turned up, just got influenced out. So that could prove problematic. And then it costs a lot of blood. But I think this works kind of neat, actually.
When we talked about this challenge before the show, we talked a little bit about the deck that I thought we were going to see a version of, but we didn't. We just spilled a lot of water. Fuck that shit. Sorry. Erik Torstensson made that Rush deck.
Yeah, and I think he got inspiration from Ben Pede.
Okay. What was that about? I mean,
Essentially, you use one of the Temporis cards. I don't know. They all sound the same to me. Hourglass, outside the hourglass on the mind, something like that.
Outside is the damage free range.
Yeah, but you use the card where you can start a new combat. You play Majesty, that action modifier. You burn a blood to start a new combat. You're untapped for a new combat. You slap your opponent around. You're untapped at end turn. You play a new rush card. You rush. You play a Majesty. You use that Temporis Psych-ish card. You start a new combat. You're untapped, and then you play another combat card. You have a multi-rush deck by using Majesty for
untapping.
Yes, exactly. But we didn't get any of those decks. I think it's kind of neat that Randall chose to use Dimitri's special to regain blood for Shalmath and keep the deck going through that way.
And also there's another thing that's quite neat is Summon History for Ankara makes you be able to take Chameleon for half its cost.
Yeah.
That's a really neat addition because the Naktareb one, it's kind of a one-shot thing. Like you wanna steal a vampire and then get that advantage and then just ride that advantage throughout the entire game. This deck can actually steal minions permanently.
Several times.
Yeah, exactly. So Dimitri Special together with Ankara Citadel, you can just steal vampires every single turn or every single time a new one shows up.
Yeah.
So that's neat.
And this work, it's 5 banishments also works into this idea that that you can banish someone, and then if that vampire comes back up, you have your Chameleon ready, and you have your Ankara Citadel Turkey, and then you just go for it. And since you have the one untapped in Shalmath, special Cortex, and you have the Domain of Evernight, you have 7 of them, so you probably have 3 actions with Shalmath each turn. I think you could make this, or should make this card 60 card deck and make it tighter, but I think the core idea of it is fun.
Obfuscate Monsters is fun as well, because for both Banishment and Chameleon it's only younger, so you can make Shalmath a 12 cap with 2 Obfuscate Monsters. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For who?
For whom?
Maybe that's grammatically correct.
Maybe it's the grammatically wrong one as well. Sorry.
Yeah, our English is awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about it. Yeah. Obviously, you need the Crypt Acceleration to get Shalmath up early enough to get those first 2 vampires, at least. All players get at least 2 vampires early on to be able to see.
Yeah, I think we're done with that one. Congratulations, Randall Rudstam, for yet another victory. Next week we are not going to challenge you guys. It's been a little week with we don't feel like it. No, we're going to try another thing. We're going to set up a little deck clinic, you can call it. Adam, you want to tell the viewers about it?
Sure. Yeah, well, just if you have a deck that you feel like it's not working the way you like it and would want us to talk about it in the show in a our analytical kind of way, or if there's a deck that you're thinking about trying but you're not quite sure how you're gonna get all the things together, you can send it to us and we'll try and give our input on it, and we'll do it live and you'll have a recording of it as well.
Yeah.
We'll try to actually do some changes on air and try to give different options. But please remember to send an instruction. What's the general idea? Which order should vampires get up, and how would you like to oust? And is there a certain combo that?
Yeah, and the more we know, the more we can do with it. Obviously.
Yeah, and obviously we need to know the problem.
Yeah.
We need to know also what you want, what we can't change with the deck. What's the core idea and what's extraneous. So what we can change and what we can't change.
Yeah. and we'll try to make it like our version or put in our input. But I mean, we should take out maybe a warning is a strong word, but it will be changed, and that for some people that can be a little bit rough.
And if you want help with a rush deck, I don't think we're extremely well equipped to analyze a rush deck. So you can of course send it in, but it might not be as good.
Then we will of course contact one of our experts in Finland that maybe can help us.
Yeah, we'll bring someone in. Outsourcing.
Well, anyway, we would love to have a look at your decks and try to have some input. It will be really, really fun, and we will try to invite you in the process of how we think when we are adding and discarding cards. And yeah.
I actually would like if someone sent a rush deck. Am I allowed to say that?
We need to try. Also, like, if we can get feedback on this idea as well, what you like about the idea. Maybe after the next episode when we've done it once might be better, but of course we want to know that as well.
Okay. Well, anyway, Adam, do you have any parting words on Salubris or statistics?
No, I think I'm done. Try them out if you haven't. It's a mechanic that you will probably face, and which is quite special. So trying it out yourself, as well as playing against it, is good exercise because it's really special. Minion Steel works in mysterious ways.
Okay.
It does.
Is that any wisdom you want to stow upon us?
This is more or less for the guys who have friends who play Minion Steel. Don't get angry. Really, don't. Like, you have to allow your friends and your playgroup to play decks. Instead of getting angry, find some neat way to work around it. Because if Minion Steel or Salubris or Spirit Marionette decks were unbeatable, there would be a lot of them in the tournament winning deck archive, but there isn't. So don't get angry. Like, try it out. See how it feels like when you get Mind Raped or Spirit Marionette or whatever the Minion Steel of the day is.
You have to learn to swallow.
Yeah.
I don't think that translates very well. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, anyway, as a friend of friends who play a lot of Minion Steel throughout the years, you have learned to cope with your minions getting borrowed or stealed, and just be fine with it, and then you play better, and you oust them 3 rounds later, and that's a more discreet and classy way to tell them to go fuck themselves.
In your face.
Yeah. Yeah. You write it in calligraphy. You just put a note under their cards, and then you find it. This is in your face.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay. I think we're done.
Okay, well, that's it for this time. Thanks everyone for watching, and remember, if you have any thoughts, comments or ideas, you can post them on our Facebook page or send an email to the address below, causeampersandeffect@gmail.com. After the episode, we'll post a thread on VTES where you can continue the discussion as normal. And also, don't forget, if you want us to take a look at your decks in our clinic, air quoting, Isaac. Yeah, you can send that into campersandeffect@gmail.com as well, or send them on Facebook. And of course, we would like to remind you that it would be great if you click like on us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we need to feel the love. So that's it for this time. So say goodbye, folks.
Bye.
Yeah. So have a good week, and next week, of course, we will have a special guest.
Pascal Betand.
Yeah, will join us, and talk about Auspex winners, and that should make a great show. He's a really smart guy.
Yes.
Yes. Looking forward to having a discussion with him. I haven't met him in real life, seen him or anything. But okay, anything. Yeah. Goodbye, and remember, every action has a reaction.